I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green, and I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit, cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly, better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder, and I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Morning Show, the top morning show in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines, and most importantly, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight. What do I mean by that? I mean, I only talk to transportation, what you're trying to do. Might have been blacked out here on the screen because it looks like my wife. There we go, and we're back. And yeah, we're just here to bring the right information, you guys, that you can apply, utilize, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life out there. It's one of the many reasons why I proudly fly this American flag behind me every single day. A, we're the greatest nation on earth, but B, I'm living my American dream, and I want to help each and every one of you live yours as well. I got a very special guest for you guys today. I'm going to bring him up in a second because we're going to break down an interesting article that I saw the other day about mind-altering substances and what effects it has on driving and everything. But before we do anything, as always, I got to give a shout out to my friends over at VHub. You guys, vhubapp.com. Whether you're a broker, carrier, or shipper, we all need access to trailers. And the best part about it, you get paid to move these. That's right. If you're an owner, operator, or a small fleet and you got a trailer in the shop, you don't have to shut your operation down anymore. You can get on VHub, get paid to do this, and that's on top of the revenue that you can get by loading it out. So what they're working on right now is they got West Valley City, Utah, going up to Calgary, Alberta, and you get $1,550 US to move that. They also have 150 drive-ins down in Paragould, Arkansas. And what they need to do is move them all up into Mississauga. But you can create a drop trailer opportunity with some of your large enterprise shippers out there, you guys. So you can go on there. And then if you got a shipper over in Nashville or Louisville or even over in Pittsburgh, you can move them up there, drop them at your shipper, get them loaded up. They just got to end up in Toronto there, you guys. And you get 1,000 Canadian per trailer to move that. And then they also have Dallas, Texas going up to Long Sault, Ontario, and you get $750 US to do that. So hit them up, you guys, vhubapp.com. My man Xavier Campos and Stacy Steen, they'll be in the audience. Just do me a favor, let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. Zach Williams, good morning, sir. Zach's with SPI Logistics. You guys join the team. You want to become a freight agent, take control of your financial future, hit my man up. Tammy Roll, good morning. Thanks for tuning in. Stace, let's fucking go. It has been a while. Good to see you. Sebastian, morning, sir. Tracy St. Clair, good morning. She's watching over on YouTube, you guys. I go over there as well on YouTube and Twitter. Aaron, what is up? Good fucking morning from Phoenix. That's right, you guys. Freight Valley. Javier Hernandez, what's up, my man? Good to see you. And Oscar Santiago, the best coach. I appreciate that, sir. Let me see here. Julia Oleskoga, let's go. Good morning. She made it to the show. Let's make it an awesome day. Zach, what is up? Talk to me if you need a trailer. VHub can help, he says. David Fry, what is going on, sir? Thanks for tuning in. All right, I'm going to bring my guest up. It's been a while. You guys follow him. You guys see his crazy posts at random hours because he had twins like 5 months ago. So I got my man, armchair attorney, a.k.a. Matthew Reffler, back in the house. What's up, dude?
I am so glad to be here. I'm living La Vida Loca. And that's the
right.
Word, the phrase, the moment, the movement. Great to be back, Freight Coach. How are you?
Dude, I'm good, man. Outside of not being able to get the show set up until this morning because there was, some tech errors with the company that I used to host this on, and they wouldn't connect to LinkedIn. So, but it's fine though, right? Like I'm just fucking here for the party.
Technology is designed to give us frustration and delight, and sometimes it's a little bit of both. And I'm glad we were able to get it going. I'm glad to be back, my friend. It's been a minute. It
has been a minute, but dude, you got a lot of stuff going on. Like a lot of stuff going on.
I just keep juggling. It. Plates are still in the air.
You have to. You have to keep pivoting and going. And so what's new in the armchair attorney world, man? Because you're out there kind of championing some non-compete stuff and everything else, which, we won't get into all of the non-compete shit on this show, but we can always dabble in some of that stuff.
Just to let your audience know, right? Yeah. There's 30 million Americans, 1 in 5 working people have signed a non-competition agreement in the United States. And the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, has put out a proposed rule banning non-competition agreements and rescinding them for every single person that has signed them, except for selling a business. There's 7 days left to comment on the public forum. And there's been over 12,000 comments so far. And surprise, surprise, most of them talk about how bad non-competes are. So I always urge people, if you or someone you know has been experiencing a non-competition agreement, tell your story. Go to the website, make a comment. You can do it anonymously. You can do it with your own personal name, and let people understand how these things have impacted your lives. It's not just in trade. It's not just in medicine. It's in everything, and they are pervasive. So I'm always excited to talk about that, but I'm also excited to talk about all sorts of things in transportation and law.
Dude, I love it. Hold on. I like just hearing you talk right now just makes me think of, these billboards that you see on the highway.
Do you or someone you know want to sue your employer?
That's exactly what it is. I mean, look at this.
I don't have a billboard yet, but maybe we'll get there someday.
Dude,
maybe we'll get there.
We should just take one out. See, John Floyd returns his strong arm to you. It's time to get personal injury.
Well, the other news I have is I now have a registered trademark. Armchair Attorney is a registered trademark with a little R in a circle. I got that done a couple of weeks ago with a phenomenal firm, Anna Law, and I'm very excited that I got that now. So I have something.
Dude,
I have something.
I love that. I love that, man. You got to trademark that shit.
That's right. That's right.
That is the best. I love it. So let's hold on. So today's topic obviously makes me think of this song.
Come on, say Coke 45 and 2 zigzags. Baby, that's all we need. We can go to the park.
I got to be careful because YouTube's going to censor me because I don't have the fucking rights. You see, lawyer, I'm picking up on shit here.
That's right.
But dude, so the topic we're going to talk about is there's from the articles from TT News, and it was drug expert weighs in on safety of alcohol versus marijuana. And it's interesting to see this because obviously there's some, I don't know how many states have marijuana legalized at this point, but at some point I wouldn't be surprised. Do you ever think that we'll see it legalized at the federal level or no?
Absolutely. 100%. So
yeah,
for anyone who's watching and listening, so marijuana is a Schedule I narcotic, which is the highest regulation you can have for any type of controlled substance. Generally speaking, it means that there is no medical use and there's no private use you can ever have under the federal system. And the federal system has the supremacy over all of the states. However, as you mentioned, many states have gone into a medical marijuana opportunity. So that's like 30 some odd states, maybe more. And then there's also recreational marijuana. That's about 20 some odd states that have gone down that path. And the feds have kind of been like, okay, let's just see what happens. There is really no good reason, medical reason, why you would have marijuana as a Schedule I narcotic. Likely that will be changed. There is some movement at the federal level to do that, but it's a very political issue, so it hasn't been. So the choice has been, let's just not enforce it, the regulations today, and let the states do what they want to do.
Yeah. And that's what's interesting to see how a lot of this is unfolding here, because there are, so the article, you guys, is from ttnews.com. Drug expert weighs in on the safety of alcohol versus marijuana. Drug expert Todd Simo, the statement that the use of marijuana is just like alcohol, but safer, isn't exactly accurate. Okay, maybe in one way, yes, pot is safer. You cannot eat enough gummy bears laced with THC to die, says Simo, who is a chief medical officer for Higher Right. We all know what THC is, so I don't need to get into that. But from a safety perspective, marijuana has a much longer period of impairment, different from an occupational perspective than alcohol, and therefore have a much larger impact on safety. People running into each other, sure, that happens to alcohol abusers and pot users, but most likely it's the pot users who stop at green lights. When that happens, there's going to be an accident. If a driver is messed up on it's so funny to hear people call it grass still. If drivers are messed up on grass, he or she is all of a sudden stopping on exit ramps, unable to spatially discriminate and unable to make rapid decision making, he added. Is that really safer? So like what? I don't know, man. Because to me, this is like they're both fucking impairment, right? Like
the point to say right off the bat is no one should operate a commercial vehicle impaired, whether that is done through alcohol or marijuana or cocaine or amphetamines or opioids or anything. Like you cannot operate a vehicle, whether it's a forklift or a truck, inebriated. We don't want that. But I think what it's interesting is that kind of specialist kind of explained is it maybe lasts longer in the body, or the impairment may be longer. I am not a medical expert, so don't take any medical advice from the armchair attorney.
Although, you could be called a doctor, but that different.
I am a doctor. I am a Juris Doctor. It's a pretend doctor, but that's a really important distinction. But the thing is, like, what we get back to is the trends are changing. Society is altering. So in that article, it's 21 states have recreational use and 36 states have medical use. As an employer, generally speaking, I don't necessarily care what you do in your off hours. The challenge with marijuana is that it can stay in your system, whether it's in your hair or your blood or your urine, for a pretty long period of time. And that is where this pushback comes, because in our federal system, you cannot fail a drug test. When you do a 5-panel drug test and you show up with pot, you have to get clean and then take another test and do some additional training. So it is really, really challenging, but we also want young people to come into this industry. Yeah, we really do. And if you make it so that you can't have that use, that makes it very difficult.
I just think, I don't know. I don't know what the perfect answer is in this situation, because, but it's an interesting topic, because, you're talking about that. And then it's like, I look at it like this, man. Maybe at some point in time I've enjoyed, the fucking devil's lettuce, as they call it. But to me personally, it's just like, man, if you're off work and, you're shut down, maybe not smoking in the truck. I get that, or smoking in the fucking parking lot or whatever, if you're going into load trucks. I just think of it like this, like, man, if it's a Friday and you don't have to work till, like, I know in the times that I, allegedly have partaken in these events, I don't wake up the next day and I'm like fucking hungover, right? And I don't feel impaired, so it's like, how are they going to be able to properly assess this, right? Because I think it's coming. I personally think, because because again, I'm not a doctor here. It's not the freight doctor, although that does sound kind of cool.
That's a good name.
It is. But I think of it like this, man, like, if you're because some of the drugs that are out there, gets out of your system fairly fucking quick. Yeah. If they do a hair test on this and it shows that somebody smoked pot or whatever fucking a month ago, they're not impaired today. We all know that they're not impaired today, but that would be a failed drug test for the companies out there. Cause that's a big topic in the consortium right now, is do they use hair follicle testing for the industry?
And that's a really good thing to segue to talking about hair follicle testing generally. So one, I think hair follicle testing is discriminatory when it comes to women who have longer hair. That's a real thing. I believe it's important to note. But the thing about hair follicle testing is that if it were to go into practice widely throughout the federal system, you would have up to 300,000 drivers disqualified, and that shrinks capacity pretty rapidly. So there are existing companies in the industry that really do want that capacity to shrink. They really are lobbying to put hair follicle testing as the main way of doing testing for this drug. And I hope that doesn't happen. I think it's the urine analysis is fine for showing, are you actively using, and something to that effect. But to your point, why do we care what people do in their off hours if it doesn't make them less safe? Because at the end of the day, driving a truck is a very dangerous job. It's one of the top 10 most dangerous jobs in the country. And it's the most common job for men who have a high school education in all 50 states. So if we want to make this industry unpalatable to the future generations, then this is something that we're going to have to wrestle with, because people want to use it. They do. And how do you solve it? How do you regulate it and make it a safe way for operating commercial vehicles? That's still really hard to tell.
Okay, this has to be a lie right here, because it says only 13% of Americans use marijuana. That's bullshit, right?
Well, you have to ask how the study was conducted. Like, are people saying, like,
exactly? Is that just like somebody filling out a form that they openly admitted to using marijuana? Because come on,
that's probably a selection bias. Like, people will report, like, when you self-report, there's a lot of interesting things. But I think it's important to note, like, the taboo is not there anymore. I mean, 20 years ago, you couldn't talk about, you couldn't do it. Maybe some songs could talk about it, but today it's what people in the suburbs are doing to relax after a hard day of work, or people are doing, all across the country. Because
it's the fucking modern age white wine,
That's right.
That's all it is.
I mean, with alcohol, you can, if you're an alcoholic and you stop drinking, you can die from doing that. Doesn't happen with marijuana. Now, there are psychological things that happen with addiction with marijuana, but that physical addiction might still be there, but not to the extent you'd have with something that's much harder, like a cocaine or PCP or any other things that are out there.
It's going to be like just the evolution of this. I'm going to be really interested to see, like, because at the end of the day, I personally think that they need to come up with some form of a framework now on how this is going to go out before it gets federally legal, because there are a ton of jobs out there. Like, again, is it a zero tolerance policy on it? Like, hey, it might be legal, but if you're operating this, I mean, just think about it. Like, I just look at it like this. Would you really want an airline pilot fucking high? Well,
if they're in the plane, like, and the plane's off the ground, I want the plane to be high up. That's true. Like 35,000 feet.
Matt's he's a dad. So dad joke right there, you guys, hardcore dad joke. But no, I just look at it like this, man. It's like, I don't think, like, what's a discernible amount that is acceptable? Like the BAC of a CDL holder is 0.04, right? How are they going to be able to accurately test it? Because you're talking about hair, is it a urine sample that tests below a certain amount? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see, because again, like you said, I personally don't feel like if you do something on a Friday and you don't have to drive for a couple of days, that you're impaired on a Monday. It's just like, what's the difference between having a beer on a Friday night and working on Saturday? You're technically sober, right? But you might fucking piss with there's just so much that is going to go back and forth. And that's why I think, like, I personally don't think that they're going to be able to legalize it on a federal level. I don't think that they're going to be able to do it, because that opens up too much. Well, as much as they love spending our tax dollars on stupid shit, I could see them investigating this a lot more. But I think that they have to draw a hard line in the sand with it. I truly do, because, like, you got Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. You got a bunch of advocacy groups that are out there that are against impairment of any sort. And I think, like, it's too subjective, right? And as Sven Nielsen says right here, is that they can't narrow down the window of when it was used. And he thinks that that's the main problem. And I would say that that is a very accurate statement. It's like, how can you tell? And that's my problem with hair testing, right? Because it's like, dude, there's some shit. Like, it's like, if I fucking smoked weed a month ago and I'm driving today, my hair will show
exactly that's exactly right.
But nothing else will. So how am I fucking impaired? I'm not impaired.
We have to look at it from in my opinion, we have to look at it from reasonable suspicion. Are you acting like you're inebriated? Because if you're swerving in your truck, I don't care what you've done. I want to find out if you can pass a sobriety test. Yeah. So whether you can determine if someone has just used the marijuana or it's been a couple days ago, we want people to be not impaired on the highways. 100%. And we want the regulations to be informed by medicine, not by our proclivities to think, oh, it's a taboo topic. It's not something we should be talking about in good company, because this is a Schedule I narcotic for a very strange reason. The history of marijuana being regulated as it is a really interesting story. We won't get into that here, but it's important to note that it was not grounded in medicine for how it was regulated. I don't have a tinfoil
hat with me. We can get into it, Matt. I just don't have a tinfoil hat on why it is.
The strongest people who are advocating against marijuana being generally decriminalized and regulated tends to be people in the for-profit prison industry, or the people who are selling tobacco and alcohol right now, because they prefer not having the competition. But we are seeing that we are making it legal in certain states, and oh my gosh, those states aren't collapsing around themselves. Like, that was the thought. Oh, if you legalize it, everyone will do it and everyone will be dead. And we're not seeing that. We're seeing states that are legalizing it, having great tax surplus from it. And trucking is a job that is common, and people should be able to use some of these things, but it's really hard at this point because of random drug testing can knock you out of it.
Yeah. And it's interesting, because, like, talking about the transportation of it as well at that point, like, what is the difference between, because, like, I know long-term, it's going to be federally legal. They're going to tax the shit out of it because that's what they fucking do, right? Like,
that's exactly right. It's exactly right.
But then again, like, you're looking at the transportation of it at that point. Is it, what's the difference between transporting 44,000 pounds of fucking weed? So I'm just laughing at the thought of just bales of marijuana in the back of it. Anyways, what's the difference between that or somebody who's got a fucking eighth in their fucking, the cab of their truck at that point, but they're not hauling that? Or, like, I don't know. I think that there's a lot of different angles that they could go with it. I think it's going to be fought very, very much. I think it's going to be a long time before you could ever see anything adopted by the FMCSA to have it as a schedule, not a Schedule I narcotic. I'm not trying to go that way, but on there, like, of hey, if you have this amount in your system, you're good to go. because, again, it's just like with anything, any mind altering substance that is out there that we're talking about is, I think, like, it's got to be very, very strictly watched, man. It really does. And you got to draw that hard line in the sand. There can't be any leeway. There can't be any bend with it. And you have to fucking address these issues because, like, it's just, because I could also, play the devil's advocate here and see the counterpoint. What's next? They're going to say, oh, it's okay to do cocaine because cocaine's out of your system in X amount of time. Like, then there are people who are going to fight for that. And then, I don't know, man, it could fucking spiral quick.
I mean, longer term, it's all going to be done by robots anyway. So we're all just kind of rearranging the chairs on top of the boat. But no, but to back up and say, like, what do we want from our supply chain? We want freight to be safely delivered on time and undamaged. And how do you get freight to move safely? Well, you have drivers that are qualified and are sober in the transportation of the things that they do. But we know that's not the case because we see people get pulled over. We see people are inebriated. They are abusing narcotics in different ways. And hey, look, I'm much more against opioid use and that rampant use of opioids for chronic pain for anybody, especially truck drivers.
Oh,
and
dude.
Those are really, really dangerous. Like they're far more addictive and can be far worse than using something like marijuana. And I want the regulations to be informed by science, not to be informed by people who say, that's a bad.
How about if we're going to do that, let's do independent science that isn't fucking funded by big pharma, right?
Yeah.
Because if you want to talk opioids, man, opioids is it's the worst. Like that is exactly how many people out there can go in and get a fucking prescription for painkillers today, and you're telling me that those don't impair? Like but that's legal. That's cool. Like you're fucking fine with that, but you can't, smoke a little bit of weed and fucking drive, again. So there's counter arguments to both, man. That's the problem. Is it's like, I could see this going into how much lobbying money can they throw at that? And are they willing to throw at that to make the changes to make it into law? Again, we know, follow the money with everything.
And back to the same point, is like, even though you prohibit the use of something, doesn't mean you stop the behavior. So just because you can't drive a truck and smoke weed doesn't mean it isn't happening right now. And Correct. So the data as time will go on is, are they actually less safe as motor vehicles? And I don't know the answer to that, but we'll certainly see it over time. What I don't want to see happen is the knee-jerk reaction of, we need to put hair follicle testing in for everybody, because to your point earlier, that doesn't tell you about your ability to work right now. It talks about what you did a month ago or 6 months ago if you have long enough hair.
Yeah, and I don't agree with hair follicle testing for this at all. I think that the most accurate one, and they were talking about this in this article, is blood. Blood is the most accurate one. It shows the most real-time data on if it's in your system or not. And I think that, from a hair follicle standpoint, like that's just going to fuck up way too many things. Way too many things. Because again, it's like, how many times, like, what if you're not using, but you're around people that are, and then it just, and they happen just to be fucking blowing smoke into your hair. Does that show up?
And the thing is, like, again, I go back to something similar to like vehicle maintenance as a good proxy. When you have international road check, 1 in 5 commercial vehicles that are inspected fail, right? So 20% are failing. Yeah. Let's focus on real things that are safety issues we can really dive into, because this marijuana stuff is ultimately still prohibited on the federal level. You can't have it in your system as a commercial vehicle driver. If you pop, you're going to have to step out and do some stuff. But over time, to attract young talent, we have to get more proactive in the things people can use in their off hours. And hopefully testing will get better where you can actually test for real inebriation in real time. And it's still a little ways away, but it'll get there at some point.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that, Matt. I think science will catch up eventually. They'll be able to get it down to like to a general hour, like, between the hours of fucking 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. on April 18th, you smoked. Like, exactly. It fucking shows. They'll be able to get that accurate with it. Hell, I'm sure they already are. Like, I'm sure
it's cost prohibitive. I imagine you're probably right. A blood test that can show exactly what's going on.
I'm sure that's out there, man. And, because dude, it's going to be interesting. And then it's going to see, I think that, insurance will have a lot to play with this, because it's like your insurance company, like, even if it is out there, your insurance company, like, we won't insure you if you allow this, mm-hmm. And then from a trucking company's perspective, how do you get, how do you operate that? I think that this is a long, long ways away from having a clear-cut answer on where it can go. It's always going to be an interesting topic, though. It really is. And I think it's only going to continue to become more and more intense as more and more states legalize it, have medical marijuana, and eventually when it gets up to the federal level, it's going to see, it's, this is Sven brings up, that's why Coke is a popular choice for most rig pigs, he calls them, because it's out of their system within 36 hours and they can pass random drug tests with it. And, because like, dude, that was the thing, is back in the day, man. And again, you hear stories, right? You hear a lot of stories. And I think the long term has always got to be safety of the driver and the motoring public.
That's right.
How do we ensure that safety is up there? And that's always going to be the big thing. It's going to be really interesting to see where this goes, though. Go ahead.
What I like is, like, it's not like the days when Michael Phelps was seen at a party smoking marijuana and he lost his contract with Subway and all these terrible things happen because it's such a terrible, terrible thing to do. What we are now finding is the taboo of use of recreational or medical marijuana is going away, and it's becoming a bona fide competitor to chronic pain management, like the opioids have been over for such a long time. And truck drivers are often the most neglected part of our workforce because they're not around. They're always off the road. They're not consolidated in some single lobbying organization. There's different types of people. What I think everyone should be thinking about is when they read articles or see things about that is who the speaker is. So like you mentioned about who does the research, Big Pharma or someone else, who's speaking. So if someone says we have to have hair follicle testing, you're like, well, why would they want that? Oh, they see the value of removing 300,000 drivers. That gives them more capacity because they're already doing the hair follicle. So now they can be more competitive. So it's just being a really good consumer of news is what people need to really focus on. And don't let any one story break or make what your position is, because this is going to be fluid. We need more data to see if people can actually operate vehicles safely with this stuff around.
Yeah, dude, I agree with that. And I mean, that's just like kind of the whole point of this entire show as a whole is don't take one data set or one article to heart on how things are actually going to fold out. And, it's going to be interesting to see, man. I'm really interested to see how this is going to progress and go out, and then where this is going to lobby into and how this is going to go. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's going to be it's going to be exciting, Matt. It's always exciting to talk about this.
My prediction is this: as it gets more pervasive in the country, and we get more data as to how you can test for it and what level of inebriation you experience right after, because that also depends on how much you smoke generally versus just doing it once off and not doing it very often. So there's a lot of nuances in this. But to your point, we want safer roads and we want more truck drivers ultimately. And if we make it so this industry is hostile to ways people want to relax on their off time, we're going to struggle to find and retain truck drivers because there's other jobs where you can do these things and make the same amount of money. Yeah,
no, it's very true. It's very true, Matt. Dude, we only got like 2 minutes left, man. See, like Matt was like, oh, we only have one article to talk about today. I'm like, dude, we can talk about this for like fucking 3 hours is what we can do.
We need to get a doctor in here. That would help. That would help us kind of navigate where we think. But this is an interesting topic, and it's important that everyone who's watching you understands there's nothing set in stone yet. This is an evolving process.
Completely. This was at a conference. They were talking about this and where things are going to go and where things are going to progress. And who knows what is going to come of this. As always, it's just going to be follow the money, and that's where shit's going to go. But, Cody Miller brought up another good point here, and we were talking about this. Insurance is going to be firm on the point of never having it in the cab, regardless of federal law and stuff. So there's a lot of interesting stuff that can come out of this. I'm excited. So, dude, what's big? What's big coming up here for the next couple of months for you, the next couple of weeks?
I want everyone to be about May 16th, 17th, and 18th. That's International Road Check. This is when over the course of 72 hours, tens of thousands of commercial vehicles get inspected. You have a month, everyone. You have a month, but you've known for months. You've known for months to get your vehicles inspected. So now is the time to get with your service providers, get with your mechanic, get with your garage and say, let's get the assets in. Let's get them inspected. Let's get them ready to go. This is a timeline that we all as an industry need to pull together to make sure our vehicles are safely operating on the highway.
That's very true. And that's also a time that you will see a lot of rate increases in the spot market because there will be severely less capacity that week. Some guys Again, this isn't for everybody, but I know some guys who just shut down because they're like, I don't want to fucking deal with the DOT. Like, I'm good. I just don't want to deal with any of the bullshit,
I mean, the numbers are staggering. I mean, when you look at the last 5 years of data that have been from the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, you have, 1 in 5, again, 20% of vehicles fail for some critical minimum safety violation, not having the right tread depth on your tires, not having the right brake lining on your brakes, having airlines touching each other, not having them separated. Simple things you can solve now with a proper inspection. It's crazy. Cody has a comment here: 15 trucks every minute, 15 trucks across the entire North American continent. It's amazing. It's absolutely incredible.
Get your appointments scheduled right now, drivers. PM, get your preventative maintenance checks done, get it all done, get it fixed, get it now. Invest a couple $100 because it's gonna be a hell of a lot cheaper than the fine on top of the repair at that point as well. So Matt, how does anybody reach out and find out more? We already blew through our 30 minutes here.
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, Matthew Leffler, or my law firm, Armchair Attorney, with the registered trademark. My website's armchairattorney.com, and you can find me on Twitter at Armchair Addy, A-T-T-Y. Why? Because A-T-T-Y is the abbreviation for the word attorney, and I couldn't fit the entire word attorney into my Twitter handle. And I have twins.
That was a lot. That was a lot, but I only have a bachelor's degree, so it took me a little bit to keep up there. I'm not a fake doctor.
I got all these things on the wall, man.
I know Matt's got I'm going to just print off fake diplomas too. Put them up. Yes. Oh man, but that's it. That's it for today, you guys. The Freight Coach Morning Show. We'll be back tomorrow. All Fridays now. Every single Friday is a Q&A geared show. So if you have any sales or operations related questions for the transportation industry, DM them to me today. I'll answer them live on the show tomorrow, or drop them in the chat while we're going live. Fridays are only strictly Q&A. As always, you guys, if you guys saw value in it, share the show. If you're over on YouTube, hit subscribe. If you're listening to this replay on iTunes, Spotify, hit subscribe, share it, rank it, get it out there, you guys. That's how we are #1 in the industry, is because of each and every one of you. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.